I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. World Series is getting underway. Lee Watkinson is a guy that he's flown a little under the radar in his career, even though he's had a lot of success. But he's a very skilled cash game man tournament player and an interesting guy as well.
I played with him deep in a World Poker Tour event, and I thought he was an animal. And he was torturing certain players. I managed to stay out of his way and get busted by someone else. Mm-hmm. But this guy is one of the great post-flop players. He's not scared of taking flops. Mm-hmm. He is going to continue to have tons of success. And I think this year at the World Series, he may bag something.
He's done really well in tournaments. He's got a World Series of Poker bracelet. He's won it in the Aussie Millions. He was runner-up to Doyle Brunson in WPT. But his background is as a cash game player, so he's not one of these tournament specialists or movement specialists. He's a guy who's got a lot of facets to his game and who seems to do a lot of thinking about things away from the table, too. So it should be interesting to hear his thoughts.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. So now the typical route to poker stardom is playing on the internet and playing multi-tables, but you took a more traditional route. I mean, you were a real grinder, real rounder, playing the no-limit cash games in California.
Well, yeah, actually, I mean, I've been grinding since 1990, so there wasn't even no limit.
Same time. So
I was doing 10-20 limit hold'em and moving up to, I think the highest I got was probably like 8160, and then about 2000 I found a pot limit hold'em, half pot limit hold'em, half pot limit Omaha in Oceanside, and that's when I made my switch. And then shortly after that, the game in Oceanside kind of dried up. The live money went, into the hands of the players, and everybody moved into Commerce. And at the same time, people moved down from Colma, from the Lucky Chances. Everybody kind of came together in Commerce, and there was like Antonio Sfanieri and Phil Locke and Gabe Thaler all came down, and me and Billy Duarte and Al, I forgot Al's name, but a few of the survivors from the Oceanside game came up, and there was a 10-20 no-limit game, and that was right before the explosion. It was 10-20 pot limit, and then it went to no-limit right after the TV.
Is that when you really felt like you made kind of a big step forward in your own game, playing with these guys, or when was kind of a watershed moment for you?
In Oceanside, I think I made a big step forward. I realized that, if you play pot limit hold'em or no limit hold'em or pot limit Omaha in a game where you're the favorite, you actually don't have to experience losing months. Or where in my experience in the
that's a revelation.
If I had known that, I would stop experiencing that.
I mean, if you're if you're in the right games,
of course.
Whereas in limit hold'em, you can experience 6 months losing and still be the best player in the game, in my opinion.
When were you living in the woods, semi?
That was right after I quit my job as a valet parker / bellman in Reno.
How could you leave that kind of opportunity for poker?
It was great. Actually, I was planning on going back to school, but I was working in Reno, and I just kind of took my little. I had like $600 extra, and I was just gonna, do it kind of recreationally, just try and take an extended vacation. And I went up to Lake Tahoe, and I was playing in South Lake Tahoe, where the casino's or North Lake Tahoe, where the casino's the highest. It's like
right.
2-something a night if you want to stay in the hotel. But the game there was pretty good, so I would just play all night, and then like the wee hours of the morning, I'd park alongside the lake and walk up in the woods and throw my sleeping bag down and sleep till noon.
That's crazy.
So,
this is the way you have to do it, where now, you can live in your parents' house and play on the internet, and you really have no overhead.
Right.
But in our day, when we started playing,
you had to be where the game was.
Yeah.
You had to figure out a way to make your living too.
Yeah. I admire Leo. So I'm doing what he's doing, except I did it reverse. I played super big tournament poker, lose, and now I'm moving to the woods.
Just to cut your expenses down.
Yeah.
You live right outside of town here.
Yeah, it was summer, so it was great. I mean, that time of my life, really. Wake up, go down, swim in the lake, and eat a picnic and go play poker. When you're just starting out, to me that was a lot of fun.
It'd be hard to go back, but at the time, I'm sure it was pretty fun.
So
if it's summer.
I'm sorry. In 2004, you really burst into the tournament scene. I remember playing with you. I guess it was at the Bike. you eventually ended up second, and I was down to 12. I don't know if you remember, but I was at your table for a while.
The second place guy always remembers the 12th place guy.
I'm not saying you would, but I was surprised that you didn't win that tournament because I thought you were playing just dominating poker. Of course, there were other really good players there as well. What are your recollections from that?
Well, yeah, that was right after I just started playing tournaments. I was playing in the Commerce game, and Paul Spitzberg asked me if I wanted to play tournaments. He wanted to, back me, put me in, to take a piece, and we worked out a deal. And I switched over to tournaments from live games, and I just went on a heater. The first turn I didn't cash, and after that I cashed in the 25 Bellagio, and everything was just going right. Like a lot of people when they start tournaments, and you just get that confidence, and you feel like you can't do anything wrong, so it really makes it a lot easier, and you trust your reads. So at that time, I just come off a second and a fourth in the World Series, and a second at the Mirage, and I was just feeling pretty, much like, well, it's the way it's supposed to happen. And
did you just go in cold to the tournaments, or did you prepare some sort of strategy or confer or get guidance from people? You just went in with your live game experience and found what worked.
It struck me, now this is a small sample because we didn't play together that much, but I remember you were torturing Perry Friedman, as I recall it, because he kept trying to take flops with you, and first of all, you had position on him, and I just remember you getting tons of chips from him. Now, do you think of yourself as a post-flop player? That was the impression I got, that you were just willing to take flops, and then you were masterful after the flop.
Yeah, as a cash game player, I was more comfortable to play in a big stack and taking post-flop play. So I've kind of gotten away from that. I think that maybe I should play some more cash games and get more comfortable.
I consider you a great player, and that's why, and I'm not going to critique you, but I was surprised in your big hand at the World Series last year, because I think this, I hope you take this as a compliment. I think you're such a great post-flop player. I didn't think you needed to get into that huge pre-flop hand, because I thought you were the best player at the table. Can you just give your thoughts on that?
I was kind of shocked and surprised by Jerry's total transformation from the day that I played with him before. And,
Can I just set it up for people who don't know exactly what came down? You got to the final table, you had a lot of chips, you were by far the most experienced, best-known professional player there, and Jerry Yang came out aggressively, but very early on he raised you from the small blind and you moved all in for a huge overbet with an ace-6, and it turns out
A7.
A7. And it
Need some credit.
with an big difference, with an A7, and Jerry beat you.
Yeah, Jerry was holding an ace-9.
And he knocked you out of the tournament because he had you covered.
Yeah, it wasn't that early on, because he'd already busted the chip.
He busted Philip Hilm earlier.
Yeah,
right.
He already busted chip leader. He's the chip leader, and he'd been raising it and playing every pot, pretty much, and he was very aggressive. So at that point, I was worried that it was kind of getting out of hand, and I really wanted to change the flow, and I thought that my ace-7 would be the best hand there, and
he was doing a lot of open.
Given the way
too.
he was raising every hand, it figured to be the best hand.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I just wanted to make a stand. I wanted to change the momentum. I was really focused on just winning. I wasn't, normally I want to move up in the money, but in that event, I was playing it like a winner take all.
Was part of your thinking not just that hand, but the fact that he's on your right? If he's raising, he's shutting you out of a lot of opportunities where you needed to let him know that it was all right to let you be the aggressor, so that you could pick up other people's chips and kind of be the table.
Yeah,
table
I just wanted to do something to shake his confidence and just try and stop his momentum, and it didn't work.
I mean, you seem so confident in yourself and in the way that you've dealt with things. Have you? I mean, I think a lot of people, they would spend maybe months or the entire year. We're just getting off the new World Series, kind of revisiting that hand or even second guessing that hand. I mean, what was it like for you? It took a couple weeks. Yeah.
I was pretty depressed for a couple weeks. the end of the World Series, and that, and, you know, probably the closest I'll ever get. But yeah, I look back at it. I think it was maybe a marginal mistake, but you know, marginal.
Right. The only thing, and it's not for me to say, but the only thing is that because of what you talked about, your post-flop play, where there's no doubt that you had more experience playing big stack, you know, every street poker than these other players who a lot of them were just tournament players. You could also take some flops with Jerry Yang and figure that post-flop you're going to really have the best of it against him, well, especially with position.
Well, like specifically in that hand, he raises from the small blind and the big blind. I know he's going to follow up bet, so
right.
$2 million. I got ace-7. What am I looking to hit? You know,
right, on that hand,
I mean,
yes.
I mean, so really, to me, my options are to throw it away or to do what I did. If I re-raise, make it $3 million, he's likely to go all in, and then I have $6 million left. What am I going to do? And so you know, I didn't want to give him the option of that. And even if I've heard Mike Matisoff say I should call the flop, call the turn, but you know, he's likely to bet the turn too. And
he showed that.
And then I'm just sitting there with $6 million left, and so I don't know. It was marginal.
Well, the key may be what you said, which is, you know, you really were playing to win the whole thing, not to move up. And but I think that's the key, that you were playing to win, and you knew what you wanted to accomplish going in. So from that standpoint, you don't have to have any second thoughts, because if your goal is to win, then if this gave you the best chance to win the whole tournament, even if it cost you, you know, possibly getting down to final 2 or 3, then you did the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I had the $10 million guaranteed bonus from full tilt, plus, you know, everything else that goes along with winning the World Series. You know, you got your picture up here, and get an Adams collection, and you know,
that's what everyone really thinks about, not the bracelet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the play, and it's not a terrible thought to think, I'm going to shut this guy down, and then I'm going to be the boss. And if it had worked, of course, you're a genius. It just didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to change the momentum, and, you know, the chances that he had me dominated, you know, I thought were pretty small given his range. So you know, he might have called me with a worse hand, or I might have sucked out, in which case, you know, I'm the new boss, pretty much.
And in defense of Jerry Yang, he made some questionable calls later on, but I loved the fact that he came out gunning and he put everyone else on their heels. That was a great strategy.
It was the perfect strategy for him with his experience. He's never cashed in a tournament before. Right. I mean, except for to the little satellite, the $200 satellite he won to get into the World Series. And, you know, he got his confidence going and just...
Well, and also he was playing off his image where he had played tight up to a certain point, and now he's getting guys to lay down queens against him because they're still going off the image of the previous days.
I think people don't give him enough credit. I mean, on that day, in that setting, that was a masterful performance.
Well, and he was doing the same thing that Lee was doing, which is he really was playing for first. I mean, he obviously showed up and said, the value here is to win the whole thing. So, you know, I'm pretty low on chips. I'm going to come out gunning, and I'm going to build a big stack, and if I go out, I go out. You know, nothing wrong with that. And particularly when you don't have as much experience. And he turned into a big bet, you know, pre-flop game, which is certainly to his advantage.
Yeah.
Now, Lee has to play a lot of events this year and win a lot because he's in 3 at least of the most capital-intensive businesses you can be in. He's in music, jewelry, and clothing. Want to tell us just a little bit about your ventures?
Right now we got clothing kind of on the back shelf. Jewelry, we're doing, you know, like this is our jewelry. And
what's the name of the jewelry?
Hardcore Elegance.
Okay.
And
now, there, for people who aren't here in Las Vegas, there are big posters of you with naked women and panthers and wild animals all over the reel, correct?
Yeah, they're starting to go up, and I'm sure people will be hearing about it soon. They're pretty...
See, that flamboyance doesn't seem to go along with your personality.
Yeah, well, you know, it's actually the company's on a tight budget, and I had the choice of paying for a model or getting in there with a naked women myself. And
you did what you had to do for the company.
Save 10 or 20,000 by putting your arms around.
You're really willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And now, what about your music?
right now we've got one band we're working on. They're called Pico versus the Island Trees, and we've got an album done and expecting it to come out next fall.
Excellent. Now, I think what most people know about you outside of poker is your alliance with the chimpanzees. You said that a portion of whatever you won last year, which was significant, would go to helping chimpanzees who are later in years and who otherwise would kind of have some
bad fate.
Unfortunate bad fate. It's a nice way to put it. No, but chimpanzees are quite mistreated.
Yeah.
And when did you start to get interested in this? When did you start to get involved?
It was about 3 years ago, and I met Timmy. I met Timmy at the same time as the chimps. Friends of mine were in a band, and I had sponsored them on. I kind of had a record company that just did their albums, and they found a thing where they could work with a Grammy Award-winning record producer, and if they get it with a $10,000 donation, they would get 3 days with a Grammy Award-winning record producer working on their music, whatever they needed work on. So I made that donation, and they had a great time working with Timmy and this producer, and then afterwards I got to meet the chimps and made some more donations, and
You did it to get the girl. Come on.
But you're building. Are you? The main thing is building like a habitat for them to live out their retirement years. Or?
Yeah. Right now we're mostly supporting other sanctuaries. We're just working to support one that's going up in my home state of Washington. That's they're getting 7 chimpanzees out of a biomedical research lab in Pennsylvania and bringing them out to Washington. And we just did a charity tournament on Full Tilt where we raised $5,000. It's going to go to them.
Because chimps are very intelligent, but they're used for all sorts of medical research and live pretty miserable.
And it's unnecessary. There's other animals, but chimps have all the motions and capability to suffer that people do. So when they're locked in a little cage where they can barely move for 50 years, it's a lot of suffering.
What about the other higher primates? Lemurs, marmosets, snow monkeys? How come that?
You've got me and Lee on that. You don't know that. I don't know chimps are very intelligent, probably equal to certain poker players that we go up against.
Well beyond, I'd say.
Yeah, they're well, one thing I like to say is they're pretty easy to read. They got a lot of tells, but if you're off, it can be a serious mistake.
That's why I only play against chimps on the internet.
Very good point. Well, I know you've got to play the tournaments and get going on the World Series. You've had a lot of success here at the World Series. You've got a bracelet in Pod Limit Omaha and a bunch of other big finishes. One last thing is there a lot of confusion between you and Lee Markolt?
There's some. There's.
It's unfortunate that you're both named Lee. You're both from the Northwest.
Yeah.
You're at least superficially similar looking.
Yeah, we got similar styles. We came up at the same time, same age, played the same games. There's a lot of similarities in us, and I can understand people's comparison.
I was thinking about it on the drive over that maybe you and Lee could have a heads-up match, like maybe a 2 or 3 day heads-up match.
Change
and
name,
the one who loses has to leave the poker world, and the one who remains is the Lee from Washington. And both of you have had a lot of successes. I mean, it's
well, he's still
uncanny.
He's still focused on the cash games, and he plays really high cash games.
Right.
And he's one of the best cash game players, and so he's he hasn't gotten sidetracked into business or whatever, and he's doing well, tearing up the cash games and the high limits.
We got to get you guys both from Washington. It's ironic that Washington State has the anti-internet poker law.
Right.
Can you get on that? You have influence.
I never go back to Washington. It's kind of rainy and miserable, except during the summer. In the summer, I'm here in the World Series.
Lee, best of luck to you.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Don't forget to write us at thescoop@cardplayer.com. Let us know who you'd like to see, and let us know what questions you'd like us to ask our upcoming guests. And join us back here on Card Player TV.